doing in my fridge? Details irrelevant. I'm just here to grab a cup of juice before I start my next interview. I'm Kate Peck and welcome to Build in Isolation. And today we've got a pretty special treat for you. We've got a very special guest. She's Australia's hottest directing talent right now, and you might recognise some of her work from Killing Eve. Please welcome Shannon Murphy.
How are you, mate?
Good, how are you?
Really good. So obviously we're in isolation, you're in isolation. Where is your isolation?
My isolation is actually in Sorrento on the Gold Coast at the moment. I came to visit my parents as soon as I kind of realised it was going to be quite a long period of time. And they've got a lovely place, and I've got a 4.5-year-old, so she's in the pool every day down there feeding the swans, and yeah, we're trying to make the most of it.
Amazing. And because it's been a little while now, so what standards have lowered for you? Like, what's some of the stuff you're doing now that you may not have been doing before, like watching or like not shaving or...
Yeah, look, I've really gotten into, well, my parents don't have Netflix, so this is really, I know it's tough times. So they have Foxtel and normal TV, and so I've been getting into Britain's Got Talent, which I can't believe is coming out of my mouth, but that's what we were watching last night and sobbing through it because it's so emotional, and the producers of that are amazing because it's really effective. Yeah, so that's my lowest standard.
First. Now, I guess let's talk about the end of 2019 because it was a pretty wild time for you. Your first feature film, your directorial debut, Babyteeth, what happened in Venice, the Venice Film Festival, with an amazing crew, including Ben Mendelsohn, who I just love, and B, an 8-minute standing ovation. Can you just talk me through what kind of experience this was?
Well, Venice was pretty extraordinary because, of course, just the place itself is so amazing and has so much history, but then also the art biennale is on at the same time. So you're just surrounded by all these amazing artists and visual work. And my whole team was there, a costume designer and set designer and a casting director. So we all were hanging out, going to the biennale every day and then going to films at night. And the premiere was so huge, but what happened just before it was we actually did a press panel, and that was the first time anyone had seen the film, and the press were really moved by it. And so that was an incredible moment to all be sitting on this panel and having them talk to us and translated from the Italian, and they were getting really teary. And that's the moment I think that all of us felt such relief, but also was so proud of what we'd made. And doing the red carpet was pretty amazing for the opening too, because Toby and Eliza and I were in the car together, and Toby was playing music off his phone, trying to keep us all relaxed. And as we got out of the car, we heard this beautiful children's choir from Malabar Public School that we recorded singing a song called Santiana, which is in the film. And we all just were like, oh, don't cry, don't cry. And we got out, and hearing that soundtrack of the film as you walk down the red carpet was just incredible. It was one of the best days, I'm sure, of our lives. It was pretty amazing.
Wow. And so, I mean, obviously, we haven't seen it. Nobody's seen it because it's under lock and key. Can you just give us a really quick idea of what it's about and why it touched everybody so deeply and emotionally?
I think a lot of that has to do with the extraordinary writing of Rita Carnier. She's an amazing observer of human behavior. And in this story, it's during a really challenging time for a family, but it's done with such humor. And she's got a very unique tone to the film. And I think that's why people are responding to it, because they go in thinking it's something they may have seen before, and they come out I think just with a much more sort of holistic experience, and all the characters in the family you're really drawn to. And I think everybody picks up sort of a different person that they connect to even more. So yeah, I think that's possibly why.
And what is happening with it now? Because it's like it was going to be released and then Corona happened, and is it under lock and key? And if so, why? I mean, everybody's at home. We're dying for this content.
Yeah, no, there are definitely plans for it to come out soon. I mean, I just read some articles today that was saying June 19th in the US. So that's exciting. And then I'm sure the other dates will start to follow. I mean, it's an interesting time where we're not going to the cinema for the communal experience of watching it. But I think we're all building our own kind of really interesting, intimate communities at the moment. And for me, it's just really important that people get to watch it. And if at the moment that can't be in the cinema, then so be it.
Yeah, and it's funny because the lesson that you have with Babyteeth, that, you know, go out and enjoy life, it's a real parallel to now. I mean, how do you think people are going to come out at the end of all this mayhem and Corona? I mean, will they be appreciating life more?
I think so. I was just talking to a friend of mine today on the phone, an Australian producer called Nicole Donahue, and she was saying just a few weeks ago, do you remember when we were out at a restaurant having wine in Bondi? And she thought, wow, we had such an incredible life. And she said, I hope when we get out, we keep remembering and appreciating all of that and not ever taking that for granted anymore, because it's so easy to do. But I think this is kind of an interesting sort of spiritual time for people to sort of sit still for a bit and focus on things they've maybe not been dealing with, or allowing their brain to slow down and operate differently.
And there's this great photo that I saw of you with your daughter Dylan on set, like being a badass director. And you probably didn't do it on purpose or anything, but it's just such a moving, inspiring photo. And I think it probably had a profound effect on women who think, well, you can go and choose one life, but you can't have the best of both lives. Do you think that the perception is changing and things are moving in the right direction?
I do. It's definitely a different world for female directors since when I was a theatre director. And I think it is really a nice time where we can talk about family or being mothers or fathers, and it not sort of be something that we feel like we have to hide because somehow that's going to affect our work situation. I remember not telling anyone when I was pregnant because I didn't want other people to make the decision for me as to whether I was capable of working and at what time I was going to be able to go back to work. Yeah, so I think, you know, I do think it's getting better. I think there's still a lot to do. But in Australia, I feel like we are in a lot of ways ahead of the game when it comes to gender.
Probably have to agree there. But let's get into something super juicy, which is Killing Eve. Oh my God. So you literally went from Venice straight to America to film, to direct 2 episodes out of series 3. I mean, that's so much. It's an established TV series. I mean, so much trust to put in you. What is it like to come into a series like that and have free reign?
Yeah, look, I mean, there's such an amazing company, Sid Gentle, that make Killing Eve, and, you know, they're really experimental. That's why I think when it first came out, everyone went, whoa, this is so unique and tonally original, and these female characters are really out there. And they are still operating in that way where they're taking risks and they're always asking the bigger questions. And so it's a very inspiring environment to work in. And I had a lot of fun, and also was just really excited to work in the UK and kind of compare that to how we work in Australia. But to be honest, it's quite similar. And I really liked that because there was so much camaraderie on set, and such great sort of gusto for the work, and the actors in Killing Eve are all, you know, really extraordinary talents. You know, even like Fiona Shaw, I've been such a fan of hers since I was young, and I used to see her work in London as well because she's a director, and I admired that too. So for me, that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm gonna have a rehearsal with Fiona Shaw. It was really exciting, you know. And Sandra Oh, you know, I remember first seeing her in Grey's Anatomy and going, wow, who's that powerhouse? And Jodie is obviously just an enormous actress and incredible, and yeah, and then Kim Bodnia from The Bridge. So like, it's a complete gift, you know, for a director to walk on and work with those amazing actors.
And have you got any, like, what would the favorite little gems and memories that will stay with you? What kind of surprised you or threw you during those 2 episodes of directing?
Oh, we had a pretty amazing day shooting, sort of on top of an incredible mountain, where we had like all these it was a night shoot and all these lights started failing and we couldn't, go replace them because we were on top of a mountain where they'd never shot anything before. And, when things like that happen and everyone has to rally together very quickly to make it work. What I love about that is, you think, gosh, even on such an amazing, well-established show like Killing Eve, of course things go wrong. And it's always, I think, when the adrenaline really kicks in and you sort of have the best time, actually, because you feel like you've sort of gone through a battle all together and come out the other side and won. So moments like that were great fun.
And because Corona is, the chat now, what advice do you give for actors and directors to keep themselves busy and inspired during this time and productive?
Something they always taught us when I went to NIDA for directing was that it's so essential to be an informed artist. And by that, they were saying, make sure you go see everything and read everything and know who everyone is. Now, you can't really go anywhere and see anything these days, but there are so many amazing companies putting stuff online, like the ACO are doing all their amazing music online. And, I showed my daughter some Cirque du Soleil the other day, which she'd never seen, and that's online. I'm actually personally doing a lot of Retro Sweat, which is my friend Shannon Dooley's amazing 80s aerobics group. And that keeps me really happy. And then my other friend Zinzia Kenyo does a story every night for kids. And so I listen to that and watch that with my daughter, which is great. I feel like artists are being incredibly creative during this time. But I also think if some people just need a rest, that's important as well. Because, the science of creativity is all about the ebbs and flows, and you can't always be at the peak. So sometimes it's nice to just sit in that dip and wait for the inspiration to come.
Yeah, a little bit of quiet time can do us all a bit of good, a bit of reflection.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Shannon, that's all we have time for. It's short and sweet on Build in Isolation. Please say goodbye to our audience, and we'll see you next time on Build in Isolation. And make sure you keep your eyes peeled because Babyteeth will be out shortly. Okay, toodles.